Thomas Dimitroff, former Patriots scout, head scout, national scout, director of college scouting, was with the team from 2002 through 2007 and then went to Atlanta, was a general manager for the Atlanta Falcons from 2008 to 2020. Good run there in Atlanta. He now joins us via Zoom. And Thomas, thanks again for taking the time. How you doing, man?
Always good to be here. I just wish after this many years you'd pronounce my name correctly, but that's okay.
What is it?
It's Dimitroff.
Dimitroff. It's okay. Yeah, I'm so bad. Thomas,
you're not the first name to get butchered.
I'm the absolute worst guy. So I put the wrong accent on the wrong syllable.
It's the middle one. I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Dimitroff.
Okay. Thomas.
Did you used to say Tony Dorsett or Tony Dorset?
Dorsett.
The first thing, yeah.
Yeah, same.
Okay, so Thomas, we'll just stick with that. If you were sitting here at number 4 and Will Campbell is on the board for you and you needed a tackle, would you make that pick or would you pass?
Will Campbell, heck of a football player at so many levels, the build-around pillar guy that you're looking for. You know it. I heard you talking about it earlier. And he's got shorter arms. And ideally, not saying he can't play tackle, to your point, he probably is most ideal. Not probably, ideal as an offensive guard. With that said, the versatility of this guy, I think, can be very positive. You know, 4th overall, however, is a big pick to take someone that you're projecting inside.
So you would pass?
Not necessarily. You know, my history is not trading back, although I do like the idea of trading back in this year's draft because I think there are some of the positions that you guys have at New England. I'm talking about, O-line. I'm talking about, pass rushers. I'm talking about some of the receivers. I mean, there's some good area to move back over 5, 6, 7, 8 picks.
Thomas, is this, but by all accounts, this is a weak draft. Do you agree?
No, not completely weak. I would say at a couple positions. I mean, look, we always use the quarterback position to set the tone for us. This is a very different quarterback draft than what you guys picked at recently. But however, I think in general, there are some really good positions overall. Some of the other numbers are down a little bit.
So the reason I ask you that is Campbell typically the kind of talent that would go with the 4th pick or no?
I think he's the kind of talent I believe that would go in the top 10. Yes, but I think, more ideally to me, it seems right at that moving over into the second digits, 2 digits. 10, 11, 12.
Again, Thomas Dimitroff, I just want to tell you where he's at. He's at it's Sumersports or Summer Sports?
No, it's Sumer, S-U-M, 1M.
There you go. You see, I need this up. Sumersports, which is a football data and roster management service. So that's kind of analytic-y. And Murray, before I just to dovetail off that, Thomas, what we hear from a lot of Patriots fans who have talked themselves into Will Campbell is that, well, the word going into the combine measurements was he needs to be at 33 inches on the arm lengths. He ended up at 32 and 5/8. So that's just, if you look at a ruler, that's less than half an inch. That's nothing. That's a fingernail. And so what's the difference? And I to which I say, well, they measure him for a reason. They came up with that threshold for a reason. And I'd pay attention to that half an inch or just under a half an inch. As a football data and roster management expert, does that half inch matter to you?
Well, let me start by saying that it matters to me as a football man with the augmentation of data, which is, sort of something that we need to sort of back up where we are. Look, we took a guy named Sam Baker back in the Falcons when we drafted Matt Ryan. If you guys remember way, way back then, we moved up into the first round to take a guy that had 32.5-inch arms. I knew we were always going to be dealing with this. Here's the one thing I'll say about Will Campbell and was said about, our tackle when we took Sam Baker. When these guys know they've had short arms all their lives, and when you listen to him, he says, look, I know this has been what I've been dealing with. These guys become very adept at becoming really quick, explosive, and creative with their hands. It was one of the things I used to tell our O-line coach all the time. I used to tell Sam Baker, I'm like, man, I'm telling you what, you want new contracts here? You better learn how to effing work those hands, and you need to work them well because we are not going to be dealing with the 32.5-inch arm that continues to collapse into the body. That said, you can play with a guy in the 32s for sure. It's just all the other stuff I just mentioned that will be very important as a kid continues to evolve.
Yeah, so if you believe this draft is strong in certain positions, do you think it's better to focus on drafting at said positions? Because I ask because I was down there at the time working at 92.9 The Game. In 2013, you were the GM of the Falcons. The last time a draft as a whole was looked at as poorly as this one. And as I recall, you went corner. So do you think it's better for a GM to maybe do that with the stronger positions in this draft that's looked at poorly?
Yeah, no, that's a great point on the corner thing. And we were proud of that, right? We walked away with two guys that ended up being our starters. We needed them. We were driven by need, as you know, if back then you remember that. And, you guys both need, obviously the Patriots needing O-line. I would have no problem going O-line for the Patriots where they are right now. I truly believe that you could snap off two guys that would be legitimate starters in my mind in this draft, and I would have no problem doing that.
Can I go back to Sam Baker for a minute?
Yep.
Could he play?
Yes, he could. He ended up starting. I think we signed him to 2+ contracts, and he played well. He just, at the end, I just think he wore out, and that can happen with some of the O-linemen, as you know. But he did play well. He could slide well. He was very athletic, a la Will Campbell. He just, we had to be creative with him, and he ended up being a good signing for us over the years.
Take out quarterback. If you were sitting at number one, who would be your pick? Who's number one on the Thomas Dimitroff big board?
You're talking about this year's, right? You're talking about, yeah. Look, Abdul Carter. I love what this guy brings to the table. Pure athlete, again, pillar player. He's going to be a pillar on your team for many years to come. Athletic, explosive, turns around the corner, bends to the quarterback. All of the special stuff. I love the fact, and I was with Dan Quinn. I love the fact that a guy like this can be like Dan played. Parsons down in Dallas, right? Get really creative with him, jump him around the D-line, rush him from different places. He can do anything that way, and that's the guy that I would be excited about. If he's available for you guys, that's one where you'd say, hey, maybe we don't go O-line.
Give me between, if they go defense, Mason Graham or Jalen Walker. Pick one.
I like Mason Graham.
Why?
I just like what he's about. I like his makeup. I like his personality. Tough, driven, tough-assed. He can collapse the pocket. He has the quickness, good quickness, not top-notch quickness, good quickness to get up and penetrate in one-gap situations, but also can just jam in there and ride the guy back. I love the way that he plays his game consistently in and out. Both sides. Would
you draft a running back 4th overall?
This guy is reminiscent of some of the greatest, as you're talking about Ashton, right? Genty. What do we call him?
Yeah,
guys? Genty. Love him. I love what he brings to the table. Pure runner, great view, great vision, runs behind his pad, stays up, fast. Everything that he does to me feels like a guy down the street from me, and I wasn't a big fan of the Falcons taking the running back here a couple years ago, and we know what he's done. He's one of the best out there. I think you can do it in the first 4 picks. My preference would not be there because I think you can get someone in this year's draft that would be much more in the 15s and beyond.
Okay, so how much would the contract come into it if you were the GM? I'll just read from something Chad Graff wrote on The Athletic. So whoever the Patriots pick at number 4 is going to have a cap hit of roughly $8 million this season and $14 million after their 4th season. And again, that's important context when deciding whether to take a running back, a position that tends to earn much less than, say, a left tackle or a wide receiver. So again, because he's slotted into that 4th pick, you're paying the running back. Well, that would make him like one of the top 3 highest paid running backs in the league currently, Thomas, coming out of. So does the contract play into it where you draft the running back?
It's a good, I was referring to Bijan Robinson, right? Yeah. When I'm talking about guys like that are special guys that, look, I want to say this to you guys, again, not to be retro, but we did it with Matt Ryan and Michael Turner, right? When you take a young quarterback like you guys have, talented albeit, but young, factor in that really good running attack, and take the pressure off of that quarterback and let him do some of the special things that he can do. This is one that you have to seriously consider. I know it's expensive and the contract does weigh into it. Yes, to answer your question.
All right, Thomas, you said this. You're okay with this draft. In general, do you worry about the quality of young football players coming up through all levels? You know, flag football is kind of taking over at certain youth levels. The way the game is played, with all the spreads. Again, this is considered a down draft year. Are you worried that there are more coming? Oh, I had heard that youth participation in tackle football was under 1 million kids last year for the first time since they started recording it. Tackle football participation went to under 1 million across the country. Feels like it's trending down. Do you worry about the overall quality of young football players in the country?
I do. I do worry about it, and I worry about the focus on it, and I worry about what our generation. I don't want to be the old guys, right? I'm concerned about the focus on physicality. I mean, look, I'm also concerned about that with the rules sometimes on the field in the NFL, right? Where we used to be able to, and I know you guys have talked about this, we used to truly be able to evaluate those O&D linemen, in practice. We had so much more of a gauge and we could develop those guys. That's why Dante Scarnecchia is such an amazing coach. He not only developed way back then, but he also developed in a time when it was really complicated to develop O-linemen, which is top-notch in the country. So to answer your question, I am concerned.
Okay.
I have two other questions for you, Thomas, if we can go quickly. Just on Abdul Carter, there were some reports out there that maybe there were some character issues with him concerning practice, things like that. How much would that concern you?
Look, I'm always concerned about character because, you have to make sure that guy fits your coaching staff and your approach. And the last thing you want to do is have a wayward soul come in who is wildly talented but doesn't cut it. I would say to you guys right now, you take 32 general managers and put them around our proverbial table right now, and you ask them where they made their mistakes. It wasn't on athleticism and bursts and explosiveness and all of that stuff. It was on messing up on the character. Time and again, that happens. One of the things that often happens with coaches is coaches can often say to the general manager, hey, man, I can take this guy and move him from being a 3 or a 4 effort, drive, whatever it is, right? That's subpar, and move him into being a good or very good. I kind of call BS on that. That's not easy to do. You can change someone's skills. You can't change the character most times coming in. It's complicated. I think you really have to drill down on that and make sure that he's a good fit. That said, I will say he comes from a program, top-notch program, tough-ass coaches. I mean, I do believe that they can keep him in line. And again, given Mike Vrabel's approach here, I don't think he gets, he doesn't wag the tail, so to speak.
Okay, any of the quarterbacks in this draft, and obviously really it comes down to one in Cam Ward, but worthy of being drafted up in the top 2 or 3 or no?
Well, look, I just got off a call recently on another city that really wants Shadur Sanders in the top 5. And so, I mean, ideally, Shadur would be in that 10, 11, 12. You and I both know I just can't see that happening. And I think my biggest question to your point is, who is the third going to be? And is the third staying? Is it still in the 20s? Or does that back to the quarterback tax? Do they all move up 5, 10, 8 spots, whatever that is? So look, it's a complicated quarterback year, and there are a lot of positives, but there still are a number of concerns for these programs, these organizations that are going to try to kick it off. You guys know, this is different, of course, in New England, although maybe not last year it was. Some of these younger people that are coming in and first-time guys in their organizations are able to build a little bit. There are a number of teams out there in the top 5 or whatever, 10, that need to make a decision now, and they need to make hay now, or they're not going to be around for long. It is a hot seat world. We know that.
Thomas Dimitroff, Sumersports, football data and roster management. I think I got that right. Thomas, thanks as always for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Anytime, guys. Always good.
Okay.
Thank you.